understanding indicate as a planning. The indicator sila yung nagbibigay ng mga early warnings or babala sa isang organization ng isang destination place for them to be aware and alert for the possible risk or natural disasters. So sa isang destination, includes dito yung mga destination managers. So as an indicator, you should raise the awareness of the important role of tourism in nature conservation. As an early warning indicators, you are intended to identify the problem and the most severely at risk, and of course, you should have better ways or solution in order to avoid those circumstances. For example, Boracay Islands are among the finding on the condition of Boracay Island are beach erosion or pagguho. Beach erosion is usually ito yung caused by ocean waves na nagpo-pull away ng mga sand from the shore dahil sa speed of winds na may possibility ng pagguho that causes tsunami. In order to prevent the beach erosion, the government take an action to renovate the place. That's why Boracay is temporarily closed. Maybe kung di siya naagapan agad, maybe it causes worse problem. And many people affected, especially our tourism industry, since Boracay is the center of the tourism. So, here are the good indicators of health planners. First is make better decisions, thus lowering the risk or cost of tourism development. Ibig sabihin, you are going to make a decision or para mapababa or ma-prevent yung mga possible risk or mga panganib na need natin mag-isip ng mga alternative solution or mga possible solution or mga ways kung paano mababawasan yung mga panganib sa isang place or sa isang destination place. For example, as an individual, you should know your responsibility as a citizen, simply following the rule of the tourism to conserve or preserve our nature through, halimbawa, wag pagtatapon ng mga basura sa beach or kahit saan na nagkukos din ng beach erosion dahil din sa human activities. So, make ourselves responsible para umunlad ang ating tourism industry at maiwasan yung mga expenses sa pag-renovate ng isang tourism destination. Second is, identify emerging issues which enable them to draw up preventive measures. Ibig sabihin, ito yung, of course, we need to be aware of, knowledgeable sa mga possible na issue or problem at causes para syempre magiging handa at magiging ready sa mga rescue disasters. Mas maganda yung marami kang alam, di ba, para in case handa ka anytime. Third is, identify impacts allowing corrective action when needed. We really need to do it to identify the impacts because in order for us to see clearly the effects para malaman natin kung ano yung gawin, ang di dapat gawin or kung ano mas nakakabuti at di nakakabuti para makaiwas or maiwasan. Halimbawa, during may typhoon like today, so dapat alam mo kung ano ang dapat gawin once na malakas yung ulan and if yung place na tinitirhan nyo or is mababa or yung place na prone sa mga baha at landslide, so you need to na lumikas na, especially pag signal number 1 na sa lugar nyo para magiging safe tayo sa possible na mangyayari. Fourth is measures the implementation of plans and management activities and evaluate progress. Of course, dito you need to measure the effectiveness of plans if it is working or useful. Nakatulong ba sa pag-uunlad ng ating tourism industry? Dapat yung plan mo is connected dun sa mission at vision mo. Dapat yung plan na gagamitin is realistic, meaning na makakatuhanan or meaningful. Halimbawa, if you are planning to have a tourism business, of course, you should consider all the planning steps para maging successful yung business mo. Fifth is reduce the risk of planning mistakes by identifying limits and opportunities, meaning do not accomplish by simply not engaging in the action that gives rise to risk. Siyempre, pag iiwasan mo yung mga bagay na nagkakos ng risk, siyempre there is less risk. Before refuse mo yung mga actions, na alam mo na nakakasama sa organization or sa tourism industry. Sixth is provides greater accountability and give schedule in I mean credible information for the public and often stakeholders of tourism. In order to bring the greater accountability to your organization, kailangan ma-explain mo yung expectation ng isang company as a leader or as a manager if mag-hire ka ng isang employee or who are posting a job vacancy. It must be fully detailed from qualifications, descriptions, skills, etc. para yung job na ina-assign is mas knowledgeable sila. Of course, you should conduct our training and orientation. The seventh one is constantly monitor progress of development leading to continued improvement. Dito naman dapat always to monitor the progress of the company para masusubaybayan yung progress ng company para consistent yung development. Is indicators at different levels. First is national level. In national level, they are going to detect broad changes in tourism at the national level. They're going to compare with the other nations to provide baseline for the identification of changes at more localized levels and support broad level strategic planning. National level also concerned with tourism policy, infrastructure, facilities and physical structure plan, which includes important tourism attractions, selected tourism development regions, international entry points, facilities and services. Second is regional level. In the regional level, as input into a regional plans and protection process to serve as a basis for comparison between regions to provide information for national level planning processes. And also regional level is works at aspects including regional policy, regional entry points, and transportation facilities and services kinds of tourism attractions and their locations, and also the amount, the kinds and location of tourist and accommodation and other tourist facilities and services and location of tourist development areas including the resorts areas. Third is the destination level. The example of this is the coastal zones, local municipalities, and communities. It is also identify the key elements of assets, states of the tourism sectors, rest, and performance. Fourth is the site level. An example of site level is the protected areas, the beaches, the historic districts within cities, areas or special interest, where specific indicators may be key to decisions on site control, management, and future development of tourist attraction. For example, the national parks, the theme parks, where management level indicators can support site planning and control. 5 is sectoral level. Example for this is the tour operators, hotel, transport, and catering companies who may access indicators to feed their strategic planning process for the destinations. Sixth is the establishment level. For example, the hotels, the restaurants, the marinas, and they are going to monitor also the impact of the performance of their operations. Next is the indicators by type of destinations. First is the reef systems. Reef system is focusing on the marine sports and ecotourism and attracting a growing number of tourists worldwide. And it is also provide an important ecosystem for plants, animals, and other organisms live in the salt water. And it is offering food and shelter, includes the fishes, sea urchins, and sponge. The first one is the percentage of the reef system. The percentage of reef system is the coral, reefs are the most diverse of all marine ecosystems, and they teem with life with one quarter of all oceans species depending on the reefs for food and shelter, less than 1% of the Earth's surface and less than 2% of the ocean bottom. Over 29% of ocean species live in the coral reefs. So the second one is the percentage of reef area. Dito naman, the Philippines coral reef area is estimated 26,000 square kilometers, which is the second largest in the Southeast Asia. And the third one is the biological diversity of the reef. In biological diversity of the reef, in the Philippines is a part of the Coral Triangle, the epicenter for marine biodiversity and what is considered the Amazon of the sea. It is an area with more species of the fish and corals than any other marine environment on Earth. And Philippines also has at least 700 threatened species. Fourth one is the number of visitors to the reef per square meter or of reef. Visit numbers equate to 70 million tourist trip equivalents, or 24% of all visitors to coral reef jurisdictions where visit is include only overnight. And the fifth one is percentage of visitors to the reef who are guided. It is approximately 5 million people visit the Great Barrier Reef each year. And the sixth one is number of boats per day on near the reef. The Philippine Coast Guard on May 12, 2021 reported illegal incursions by 287 Chinese vessels in waters claimed by Manila. The seventh one is the number of dive operators adopting environmental policies promoting codes of conduct for divers. And the Philippines has thousands of dive sites. The destinations and diving spots featured in this article may have COVID-19 travel restrictions and requirements. The eighth one is number of incidents of anchor damage spills per month. Over 10,000 incidents, the vast majority of which fall into the smallest category. The ninth one is number of control enforcement officers patrolling the reef area. The Philippine government has those ships. And the 10th one is funds generated for reef protection from user fees. Fees collected can increase the management capacity of parks through, for example, education, scientific monitoring, and enforcement, collectively helping sustain future conservation of the reefs. And the 11th one is funds allocated for reef protection from public sources, donor and development agencies, and private funds. Yung mga funds na nakokollect from users fees is for the protection of the reef. Yung mga funds na ito ay from the donors and mga private funds. So next is the beach destination and sites. First is the annual gain or loss of the beach. Means that the beach destination and sites should be measured in terms of disappearance, degradation, or access, or is a loss of ecosystem, the economy, and the culture. Beach erosion is a term used to describe the actual loss of beach that occurs naturally during high wave months. Second is the volume of sand imported per month or year. For those beaches where sand importing is done, the sand is imported for largest volume globally is about 70 to 80% of the 50 billion tons every year. about 40 billion tons per year for the world consumption of aggregates in twice the yearly amount of sediment carried by all of the rivers of the world. Third is cost of erosion protection measures. And it means that there are several different methods that have been used in various places to prevent beach erosion. Erosion occurs in all parts of the world, but beach erosion is the most prevalent. Erosion prevention methods temporarily help beach erosion but do not compare to the power of the ocean. Next is use intensity. Tourism is today one of the main sources of income and employment, and it measures in tourism at its most elemental about numbers of visitors, numbers of flights, hotels, restaurants, clubs, and cafes. And what is the impact of those numbers in terms of the use of energy and resources, waste and litter? Decline in cultural and ecological diversity as well as in the terms of the creation of jobs, income, opportunities, and social illusions. Next is the use seasonality. Tourism is one of the biggest and fastest growing industries in the world, but it is characterized by seasonality. Tourism as an integral part of global business is highly dependent on seasonal changes in climate, conditions, economic activities, as well as human behavior and society in general. Seasonality has become one of the most distinctive and determinative features of global tourism industry. The most significant aspects of seasonality is that it involves the concentration of the tourist flows in relatively short periods of the year. Next is the seawater contamination. Contaminated seawater can lead to a variety of human health, and oil spills can lead to severe disruption for the tourist industry through the evaporation of seawater, which is vulnerable to oil contamination. Also, tourist evaluation is important about their experiences about the beach water of its if it is safe for them. Next is the tourist satisfaction. Of course, in tourist satisfaction, in order to correctly measure tourism satisfaction, we should consider the factors which could be evaluated by collecting the responses of tourists after their experience using questionnaires or interviews. If they were satisfied with the place or if the destination is excess his or her expectations. And next is the provision services. In provision services of a tourist agency, tourist guide, tourist escort, entertainment organizer, agency representative, tourism services in nautical tourism, and tourism services in other. Next is the cost benefits. The cost benefits this simply means viewing assigning values and counting all of the stuff we don't like cost and stuff we don't like benefits. In case of tourism, a list of the elements involved would include the following benefits: the employment opportunities, skilled and unskilled because it is a labor intense. Next is control. Control helps employees to identify, analyze, assess, and hopefully avoid or mitigate risk coming a variety of sources such as financial upset, legal ramification, accidents, natural disasters, data or cybersecurity breaches. And last is the certification. In certification, the Blue Flag certification is certification program targeted at local authorities and the public and the tourism industry in coastal areas. A Blue Flag is awarded annually to beaches and marinas that meet certain environmental, amenity, and safety criteria. And the Blue Flag is widely recognized and assures recreational uses quality visit to the beach. And the Blue Flag also locations can use the award scheme to attract the local tourists and water quality, safety information, and education.
So, small islands use indistinct ratio of tourists to local average peak day or peak month. Tourists per square kilometers, person per heritage or square meters or key site note for natural average peak day, peak month. Seasonality, percentage of total tourism which occurs those peak month or season. Percentage of employment in tourism which is full-time, full year. Percentage of accommodation and service open all year. Accommodation occupancy rate throughout the year. Access. Ratio of transport volume peak month versus lowest month. Price of transportation on and off island as percentage the hourly local wage of local so get to island. Price of travel island main tourist source duration of travel to island from maintained tourist source hours. Water ability, percentage of local development water supply consumed, percentage of total no potential natural supply consumed, volume of water consumed by tourists, percentage of total consumed also used per person per day of tourists and for locals, number of month days each year with water shortage, cost water per cubic meter is also considered of the new supply of each additional per cubic meter. And sewage treatment, percentage of sewage reserving treatment, primary, secondary, tertiary, number of contamination event per annum, and there's sewage treatment, solid waste management, and energy. Access to natural resources, percentage of island territory and of short line in tourism use, extension of agricultural and protected areas, percentage of food consumed on the island is pursued locally if it's possible, separate local tourism use, rentation of benefits the island, percentage of food consumed of the island which is processed by locally if possible, separate local tourist and use, percentage of island of land short line which is owned non-resident, percentage of tourist infrastructure owned by management by island resident, number of percentage of employment from the local community, and out migration, percentage of migration in or out annually also calculate for youth. Retention of unique cultural tradition, percentage of local speaking the language of tourists. So climate change, percentage of island which is outside the storm surge zone, percentage of tourist infrastructure, number of volume which is located from the storm surge zone, level of beach resources, percentage of coastline eroded, and reef health. So mountain, loss or degradation of flora and fauna due to tourist activity. Counts for key species, raptors, mammals, native trees, flowers. Roadkills count by species, particularly where tourist traffic is the main user of roads. Frequency of sunlight of the key species from outfitters, guides, or exist surveys. Area protected to different level of protection. Erosion. Percentage of surface in eroded state can be categorized of the disturbance due to tourist activity, compaction, detonation, and erosion from the use, such as clear counting in road construction, percentage of surface without tree or shrub over dryable, natural and human to resource if possible, turbidity reading from streams, virtual population, percentage of visible slope without tree or shrub cover, tourist opinion of state vistas, so access, Cost of entry from control access areas such as park of protected areas or transfer of access in the hour of work of local wage. Perception of easiest access to the key site, both visitor and local using questionnaire methodology. Percentage of national or religion resident from larger nation who have visited the destination in past years. Traffic labels. Price of real estate in destination. Many mountains communities lack of living space or have elevated pricing. Solid waste. Waste of volume produced by destination tonnes per month. Visitor perception of level of litters. Local perception of level of set or subset litters attributional to tourists. Impact of activities on water qualities, watershed management. Percentage of local stream lakes which are communicated by sewage. Percentage of sewage to key site which treatment of meat standards. Percentage of areas received as protected watershed. Impact of cultural distinct communities. For small and traditional communities, ratio of that of tourists to local and communities by month, season, peak day. Percentage of hunting of fish in destination by local of tourists, local satisfaction with tourists. Natural and sensitive ecological site. So natural value. Representativeness. Number of species typical of area present at the site and number of individuals. Number of unique or rare species present at the site and number of individual. Uniqueness, percentage of site occupied by rare species, number of individuals in the population of rare unique species, percentage of endemic species at all sites, percentage of area subject to control, IUCN categories, recognition by international programs, UNESCO World Heritage Site of Biosphere Reserve, Ramsar Convention. That's all. Thank you.
Visitor satisfaction is determined by a combination of perceived value and quality consumer expectations and actual experience. A visitor's overall satisfaction will influence the likelihood of repeat visitation, extended length of stay, increased expenditure, enhanced yield, and word-of-mouth referral. Tourism intermediaries are distribution agents that participate in a tourist product sales process from its creation until the time of its consumed by a final clients. Most intermediaries are wholesalers and tour operators, bed banks, booking centers, TMCs, and OTAs or online travel agencies. Protected areas, national parks, wilderness areas, community conserves areas, nature conserves, and so on, are a mainstay of biodiversity convention while also contributing to people's livelihood, particularly at the local level. Protected areas are at core of efforts towards conserving nature and the service it provides as food, clean water, supply medicine, and protection from the impacts of nature disaster. Protected areas or conservation areas are locations which receive protection because of their recognized natural, ecological, or cultural values. There are several kinds of protected areas which vary by level of protection depending on the enabling laws of each country or the regulations of the international organization involved. Generally speaking, though, protected areas are understood to be those in which human presence or at least the exploitation of natural resources. Integrity of key protection. Protected areas are national parks, wilderness areas, community conservated areas, nature reserve, and so on, are a mainstay of biodiversity conservation while also contributing to people's livelihood, particularly at the local level. Protected areas are the core of efforts towards conserving nature and the service it provides us: food, clean water supply, medicines, and protection from the impacts of natural disaster. Promoting recreation and tourism so that visitors can learn about and appreciate our MPA without damage the values for which it is established and can be challenging. As we have seen in previous modules, tourists can negatively impact both resources and experience of other visitors. Some of these impact including disturbing wildlife, littering, removing souvenirs, and damaging mangroves, seagrass, weeds, and reefs. Wildlife crimes is a big business run by dangerous national networks. Wildlife and animal parts are trafficked much like illegal drugs and arms. By its very nature, it is almost impossible to obtain reliable figures for the value of the illegal wildlife trade. Experts at traffic and the wildlife trade monitoring network estimate that it runs into billions of dollars. Management should include number of parks officials, number of enforcement personnel per visitor, cost of protection, number of public community meetings held with stakeholders including local periphery communities, ratio of revenues to cost or parks operation. Trail and routes environmental value policies. Number 1 is density of use, tourist numbers per season or year, percentage of trail hardened, percentage of trail and margins degraded from desired or benchmark level, percentage of use relative to ecological carrying capacity or maximum permitted. Community socio-cultural impacts. Percentage of change in use by local population, level of satisfaction by locals, community support for trails, improvement in community, percentage of local residents who believe they benefit from the trail services and infrastructure, number of training courses offered per year, number of people attending. Economic benefits. They should consider the number of jobs relative to the trail, number of guides, number of businesses offering trails walk, revenue from local crafts and souvenir sales per year, revenue from accommodations per year, number of partners working together, decrease in partners funding and in-kind support, percentage of labor and materials supplied locally. Trail and tourism management. Decrease of number of volunteers, value of contribution, percentage of partners and of users who believe that the expected quality of the trail is being maintained. Tourism values or policies, level of satisfaction, number of compliments per year from tourists, number of type of media exposure per year, level of media exposure, a measure related to marketing, profile, and image. Build heritage sites, demolition of all buildings with heritage value, number of percentage of heritage building demolished, deterioration of built structure, number of percentage of buildings considered in degraded condition, threatened historic districts, number of buildings and our district listed on endangered condition, loss of historic character of district, percentage of building in district which are historic, percentage of building in district which are vernacular architecture. Protection of historic districts, number of percentage of all buildings designated at local, national, and or World Heritage levels. Protection of historic district, percentage of district which has protection, cost of protection, level of funding put towards restoration effects, reuse of historic buildings or sites, number of buildings reused for commercial or residential purposes, number of buildings reused for tourist exposure purposes, and new legislation, the quality of new legislation introduced to preserve structure and local, provincial, regional, or national levels. Thank you.
The plan to construct a runway on Boracay Island, so the conglomerate San Miguel Corporation is keen on scaling up skate in Caticlan, the gateway to Boracay Island. The building a game-changing 1.9-kilometer tall bridge that will connect to the world-famous beach community to the mainland. In an interview with the Inquirer, SMC President Ramon S. Ang said that the infrastructure project, which will be up to the local government unit to award to the private sector partner, was estimated to cost 100 million, about 2.6 billion a current exchange as a present tourist and cargo. So the Boracay using boats for the jetty port at Caticlan in recent research, and said the connectivity project will be for the convenience of tourists. They can all live in Caticlan and enjoy the view of the Boracay, which is now so congested. With the bridge, Boracay will be decongested because it will be possible for tourists to find cheaper accommodations in Caticlan. Ang said, adding to the date, and backpacking tourists would get lodging Caticlan for only 1,000 at night. We think what's best if it's everybody will stay and eat in Caticlan and go to the Boracay to enjoy the beach. Caticlan is part of the first-class municipality of Malay Inaklan. This is also where the Godofredo, and which has San Miguel Group upgrading under privatization, is local to the nearest airport to Boracay. It has a good breathtaking sunsets.
Tourism contribution to preservation of built heritage sites, visitor fees, concession fees, donation from visitors and tour operators, fees from guiding and other services, in-kind contributions. For example, for this is yung sa Intramuros, like Fort Santiago and Casa Manila, na need magbayad ng fees ng mga visitors or tourists bago makapasok. So in that way, parang nakakapag-contribute na rin sila para ma-preserve yung lugar or yung mga built heritage sites. Revenues from catering and accommodation services, tourism-related tax designated to site maintenance, and sales of goods ay nagbibigay din ng contribution para ma-preserve yung mga built heritage. Small and traditional communities. Impact on infrastructure and services. First is percentage of shops and services open year-round. Level of investment in infrastructure or services, and percentage of businesses that are locally owned and operated. Second is violation of local norms. The total number of incidents reported in a whole year. Then the local satisfaction with the level of tourism by providing a good services to the local tourists or communities. So after that, dun papasok yung percentage ng communities that who favored tourism or want more tourism and those who oppose it. Tourism as catalyst for social or cultural change. Tourism can act as a catalyst in establishing a prosperous future for generations to come. Tourism has a tremendous capability to set new standards, to change the thinking behind how we engage with planet, to drive social and cultural changes, and influence more sustainable behaviors. Ratio of average income to that of local residents. By this, it will determine the total average of revenue to that local residents. Second is those residents who didn't speak local language, they are speaking non-local language, as well as the changes of traditional activities and beliefs or values, and the percentage of the local residents concerned about the loss of new construction in vernacular architecture or viewed as compatible with traditional structure and vistas. Urban tourism. Improvement to the townscape and protection of the historic heritage. First is percentage of restored historic buildings, expenditures per square meter of public and private finance, spent in the improvement of the physical urban environment, increase of the percentage of pedestrian street in the total road network, existence and extent of public open areas, and lastly, expenditures per square meter yearly in the restoration of the historic buildings. The following are ways to improve and develop the historic heritage here in our country. To restore some of the historic heritage or buildings and spend money to increase the public open areas and to improve our environment. Environmental management. Monitoring and measuring progress in achieving the objectives. By spending it to environmental management system, the total percentage of reduction of operational costs, change in return on investment, and change in use of materials and resources, and establishing programs to meet the targets and making resources. Integration of regional economy. First is value and percentage of goods purchased locally from the region. Percentage of tourist shop promoting regional products. Presentation of cultural knowledge. Number and percentage of guided tours and or publication which give detailed information of the background of the city historic. Ito yung nagbibigay ng impormasyon o detalye ng isang lugar o lalo na yung mga city na may pagka-historic. Cover actual issues of city development and show new unconventional attractions. Convention Center. Size of facility. Total maximum capacity, percentage of utilization, and average capacity use. Ito yung karaniwang inaalam kung ilan yung maximum ng isang capacity sa isang facility at yung mga magagamit na kapasidad. Next is range of services available. Number of conference rooms and their capacity. For example, for this is yung sa mga opisina. Kung ilang conference room ang meron sila at mga kapasidad nila. Next is yung mga restaurant kung pang ilang tao ang meron sa isang table or seats. At syempre, ilang restaurant ang meron within 10 minutes walking distance. And lastly, mga iba't ibang uri ng complaints galing sa customer if yung stop hindi na ibigay yung best good service nila. Accessibilities. Distance to nearest public transport. If walking distance, ilang oras sa abutin before we reach to nearest public transport. Travel time to nearest airport. Kung anong tansya o oras bago makarating sa airport. Number of parking spaces within 1 kilometer and percentage of area of convention center which is accessible to those limited mobility. Next is friendliness and ease to use. Exit questionnaire which measures preserved quality, value for clients and visitor money, reaction to facilities, other key issues. Facility safety and security. Number of reported incidents per year. In facility and nearby involving customers. Incidents. Total percentage of attendees affected sa nangyaring accidents. That's all. Thank you.
Location relative to other attractions or potential field trips. Pricing. Price per person per day benchmark against other published rates. For example, you and your friends decided to swim and you're going to canvas for the entrance fee and for the cottage. So you're not just going to visit you're going to canvas 2 or more and you're going to compare the price so that you could choose what's the best for your budget that you could only afford and which you can also say that you're satisfied. Solid waste management, volume of waste generated per person, percentage of waste recycled, environmental management of supply chain, percentage use of disposable containers, reusable containers, and cutlery chain, etc. Green purchasing policies, bulk purchase, preference to providers of environmentally friendly products. Reputation as a conference venue. Exit survey regarding quality, reputation percentage, approval rate, percentage of who would recommend center to their colleagues for similar events. So, reputation as a conference venue, it is a venue that an events are being held, and also, syempre, i-recommend mo to if the quality of the accommodation and the services that satisfies you. Theme parks, land use, and planning. Land area, kung gaano kalaki ba yung theme parks. Percentage of area with landscaping. Landscaping where it means that the placement of a plants or any combination of trees, flowers, grass, together with the stones and the other decorations that can be put on the landscaping. Consumption of utilities, percentage of destination capacity used for electricity, water, sewage. So, consumption of utilities, where is kung gaano kadami ng electricity or ng tubig ang magagamit ng mga taong pumupunta sa theme parks. Access percentage of visitors using public transport. Kung gaano kadaming tao ang nagbibisita sa theme parks na walang sariling sasakyan or gumagamit lang ng mga public transportation. Distance from nearest public transport facility. Crowd management, number of parking, kung gaano kadami ang parking, length of lineups, number of washrooms per visitors, number of restaurant seats per visitor. In restaurants, there are 2, good for 2, sometimes 4, sometimes 6, 8, it depends on the restaurant. Noise, number of hours in operation per day, number of hours when noise exceeds local limits, number of complaints about services. So, kung gaano kadami ang mga nagko-complain sa mga services na binibigay in particular place. Waste management, waste volume produced, volume of waste recycled, kung gaano kadami yung mga napoproduce na mga basura. And number 2, kung gaano kadami yung mga basura na recycle. Groundskeeping, amount of pesticides and herbicides used per month, per hectare, percentage of landscaping using recycled gray water, human resources, number of employees, percentage of employees who are local, percentage of those receiving training, golf courses, limiting regional impacts, level of water use, total area of golf course, percentage of golf course area open to other uses, percentage of destination population who support or oppose the construction of new course, environmental design, percentage of course using native species, percentage areas retained in natural habitat, percentage of golf course property set aside for conservation, buffets, or protection. Stewardship, amount of chemical use, percentage of runoff which is captured and treated, percentage of irrigation which is done through recycled gray water, economic sustainability, number of golfers using course price per round. Water parks, water supply, total water consumption, water consumption as a percentage of total consumption of destination, water saving, efficiency of recirculation and recycling, percentage of recaptured and number of times recycled cost of water. Wastewater, percentage of wastewater recycled, reuse volume of water discharge, percentage of discharged water which is treated, energy use, total consumption of energy, percentage derived from renewables, safety, volume and dilution, percentage of chlorine, bromine, etc., number of incidents, accidents per visitors, number of water-related diseases. We all know that safety, it is important for us to ensure our visitors for their safety. Cruise ships and their destination, aerial emission, percentage of reduction of aerial emission of nitrogen oxide, sulfur dioxide based on 2000 baseline, or specific volume of discharge by each ship, overall fleet average. Ballast water, containing non-native species and which may affect biodiversity at the destination, number of discharge violation by ship, line, number and percentage of ship visits to the destination which meet agreed standards. A water taken on board a ship to improve balance stability and structural integrity when sailing without cargo. Wastewater, percentage of cruise ship visit to the destination which use International Council of Cruise Lines, ICCL or equivalent standards, percentage of ships visiting the destination which have zero discharge system or use marine. Hazardous waste, percentage of cruise ships visits to the destination by ships with zero discharge system for hazardous waste. Solid waste, percentage of ships visiting the destination with zero discharge system for all ship garbage, including food waste. Oily bilge, percentage of cruise ship visiting the destination with bilge water separation system.